couple of months ago, I made a video about one of the most significant discoveries in Majora's Mask speedrunning in recent years: first cycle skip. This glitch, discovered by Exodus, involves using a very precise spin as Deku Link to enter the laundry pool hideout during the first cycle. Accessing the laundry pool hideout allows us to obtain the Keaton mask, which, when used in conjunction with the restricted items glitch, allows us to become human in first cycle. However, if you've taken a look at a Majora's Mask speedrun since that video, you'll notice that not a single run contains this trick. But why? Although turning human in first cycle isn't something that saves time directly, it opens up the possibility of saving time elsewhere. By far, the biggest potential time save is skipping the Song of Time cutscene at the top of the clock tower. Skipping this sequence alone would have the potential to save in upwards of 3 minutes in the 80% no major glitches speedrun. However, to be able to skip this cutscene and save time from first cycle skip, we would need some way to complete the game without the use of the Song of Time and without collecting the ocarina from the top of the clock tower. For the first point, it is very likely possible that we could complete the game within this one cycle, especially through the use of glitches such as the day reset glitch to artificially extend the cycle. As for the second point, this is where things begin to get a bit complicated. Right off the bat, we have no way to skip the ocarina in its entirety. The ocarina is required for numerous portions of the game, such as acquiring the Deku mask and Song of Healing from the Happy Mask Salesman, which are required to get the Sonata of Awakening, and that is required to enter the Woodfall Temple. The ocarina is also required to get the Zora mask, which is required for entering the Great Bay Temple. So, skipping ocarina outright is currently completely out of the question, but what about getting the ocarina elsewhere? We have numerous ways of generating items through glitches in Majora's Mask. The one that we could potentially utilize here is the Get Item Manipulation glitch. Get Item Manipulation is a glitch in Majora's Mask that abuses the state when Link attempts to get an item that he holds above his head. By breaking out of this state, we can manipulate the Get Item value that is used to decide what item Link is given. In Majora's Mask, there are two main items that can be given through Gim: the light arrows, and fortunately, the ocarina. So, we should be able to just perform first cycle skip, Gim ocarina, then trigger the Happy Mask Salesman cutscene for the items we need, right? Tragically, no. We have multiple ways to perform Get Item Manipulation in Majora's Mask. We have the Zora Bonk Gim, Shallow Water Zora Gim, various Turtle Cutscene Gims, and Remote Hookshot Gim. In the case of the majority of these, they require the Zora Mask, which you remember from earlier, we have no way to acquire without the use of the Song of Healing, which in turn requires the ocarina. So we're locked out of performing any Gim methods that require the use of the Zora Mask. But what about Remote Hookshot Gim? Well, with only explosives, we can get all the way into the Pirate's Fortress and into the room containing the hookshot. This is where we were introduced to the biggest roadblock of first cycle skip being implemented into speedruns. Traditionally, the only way to access the hookshot is by shooting down the beehive in this room to scare off the guards, which allows us to open the hookshot chest. This beehive is very, very stubborn, and can only be shot down using arrows or a Deku bubble. Both of these are completely inaccessible to us, as we can't enter the Woodfall Temple for the bow without the use of the Deku mask, and we can't shoot Deku bubbles without the Deku mask. Explosions don't knock the beehive down, and sword slashes also don't knock the beehive down. So we have no way to knock the beehive down. What about just opening the hookshot chest? The pirates guarding the chest will catch you on two conditions. You must be close to the guard, and you must be within their line of sight. This means that we can actually bomb hover directly over the chest without getting caught. If we then follow this up with a cutscene dive, we can land directly in front of the chest. Unfortunately, the guards are really good at their job, and will catch you on the first frame after the cutscene ends. I, personally, alongside multiple members of the Majora's Mask speedrunning community, have tried tirelessly to get this chest open without knocking down the beehive. But sadly, nothing we have tried has given us an actionable frame that allows us to open up the chest. If we had some way of doing so, we could in fact entirely skip the Clocktown Tower cutscene. I believe that this is the biggest chance we have of making this work without the creation of some new Gim method. Another big roadblock of implementing this trick into speedruns is how the current method of restricted items is performed. Currently, the fastest way we have of becoming human in first cycle relies on the Honey and Darling minigame on day 3. For whatever reason, the developers forgot to reset your C button state after playing the minigame, which allows us to simply equip the Keaton mask as Deku after playing the minigame. This method of restricted items currently has two pretty large problems. For one, it only works on day 3. This is highly inconvenient to us in a speedrun, as one of the main benefits of Human and First Cycle is skipping the required sequences of advancing the in-game time, through Grandma's stories and through dancing with the Scarecrow. But this is not the biggest inconvenience by far. This method of restricted items requires the Japanese version of the game, and it's almost detrimental to its usefulness in the no major glitches speedrun. In recent years, the fastest routes for the speedrun have always been ran on the English version of the game, due to an exclusive glitch to use to enter the Snowhead Temple, known as the Snowhead Hess. Without the ability to perform this glitch, the alternative strategy to entering Snowhead Temple massively cuts into the potential time save of turning Human in First Cycle. The English version of the game does have an alternative to perform restricted items, and was even used in the recent One Cycle challenge that was demonstrated this past February. This method of restricted items unfortunately is not viable for RTA speedruns, requiring a massive detour to Mountain Village and a heavy dependency on the randomness of ice physics. A faster restricted item setup on the English version of the game would still not solve the previously discussed problems though, although it would make this method of Human and First Cycle incredibly useful to categories that allow the use of stale reference manipulation, as they could acquire Ocarina this way. Speaking of categories using stale reference manipulation, a lot of you might be wondering why we couldn't just use the Japanese version of restricted items. In the unlucky fashion of this glitch, the way that we generate items using SRM, known as chest SRM, must be performed on the English version of the game in order to acquire certain items. This is due to a difference in the memory layout of the Japanese and English releases of the game. So, in the current state of Majora's Mask speedruns, skipping the first cycle is not yet viable. Hopefully in the future we're able to overcome some of the roadblocks that are preventing this trick from being implemented. However, there are really endless possibilities of making Human and First Cycle useful in our main RTA categories, but only time will tell what these possibilities are. I, alongside others, have been working on glitch hunting for new ways to perform get item manipulation, in hopes of being able to find some way of doing it without the Zora mask or the hookshot. However, I believe that the most likely solution will rely on some way of performing Human in First Cycle on the English version, as even without being able to skip the Song of Time cutscene, we can still hover into the clock tower and skip the vast majority of the very slow first cycle. Even without this glitch though, the no major glitches category has seen some serious top level competition this year. Runners such as NOP112, the Human Protractor, and the Sausage have been pushing this category to its absolute limit. I'd really recommend checking them out. That being said, I'd be very interested to see how Human in First Cycle would change not only the category, but the competition itself. But until then, this has been Jake, and thanks for watching. If you're interested in Zelda glitches and speedruns, consider subscribing to the channel and clicking on one of the videos on screen now. Also, you should check me out on Twitch. I've recently been speedrunning Breath of the Wild Any% in preparation to run Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom back to back. If that's something you're interested in, the link's in the description below.